What if the very thing you are doing to heal is the exact mechanism keeping you broken? What if your relentless pursuit of peace is the exact reason you are always at war? What if the endless podcasts, the Taoist of self-help books, the midnight journaling sessions where you desperately try to untangle your own mind, are not acts of self-love, but acts of profound self-violence? Think about your own life right now. Think about that quiet, heavy exhaustion that hits you when you are staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Your chest is tight. Your mind is racing through a frantic mental checklist of all your perceived flaws. You are tallying up all the childhood wounds you still haven't integrated, all the toxic traits you are trying so desperately to eradicate, and all the ways you failed to be perfectly mindful today. You are trying so hard to be whole. You are working yourself to the bone, trying to be the healed version of yourself. But it feels like drowning. Look, we have been sold a massive, invisible lie. The modern world has commodified our suffering. It has turned our own souls into endless, exhausting renovation projects. We treat ourselves like broken machines on a spiritual assembly line. We are constantly pulling ourselves apart, swapping out defective gears, hoping that one day, if we just do enough inner work or meditate for long enough, we will finally be worthy of existing without anxiety. This is the lie. The concept of self-improvement sounds inherently noble. On the surface, wanting to be a better person is a beautiful human impulse. But beneath that polished, acceptable exterior lies a deeply sinister assumption. The absolute obsession with fixing yourself requires a foundational belief that you are, right now, in this exact moment, fundamentally broken. You cannot fix something unless you first declare it defective. Notice how this actually plays out in your daily life. You feel a sudden pang of jealousy, or a wave of irrational anger, or a deep, paralyzing bout of laziness on a Sunday afternoon. What is your immediate reaction? You attack it. You immediately interrogate yourself. Why am I feeling this? How do I get rid of it? What specific childhood trauma caused this reaction, and how do I cure it right now? You treat your own normal human emotions as hostile, invading armies. This constant self-surveillance is devastatingly exhausting. It forces you to live in a perpetual state of hyper-vigilance against your own mind. You end up dividing yourself into two completely separate entities: the relentless, authoritarian dictator who demands absolute emotional perfection, and the exhausted, cowering prisoner who is constantly failing to achieve it. This is not healing. This is an occupation. Let us look at this through the lens of depth psychology, specifically the work of Carl Jung. Jung introduced the concept of the shadow. The shadow contains everything we have repressed, denied, or hidden away because society, or our parents, or our own pride told us it was unacceptable. Most people in the modern spiritual community think doing shadow work means putting on protective gear, diving into the dark, wrestling your inner demons to the ground, and dragging them into the light so you can finally execute them. But think about it. You cannot kill a part of yourself without bleeding. When you say, "I want to cure my anxiety," or "I want to destroy my anger," you are looking at a vital, suffering piece of your own psyche and pointing a loaded gun at it. You are telling a part of your own soul that it does not deserve to exist. Jung warned us about this specific danger. He knew that whatever you resist persists. But the reality goes much deeper and darker than that. Whatever you resist grows fangs. When you force yourself to be endlessly positive, when you plaster a calm, spiritual persona over your bleeding internal wounds, your shadow does not just pack up and leave. It goes to the basement. It starts lifting weights. It waits for you to get tired. And then, usually when you are most vulnerable, it explodes. It sabotages your most important relationships. It ruins your career. It manifests as a sudden, unexplained panic attack in the middle of a crowded grocery store, or a mysterious, physical illness that doctors cannot explain. The violence of forced empathy, the tyranny of always trying to be the bigger person, These are the favorite tools of the persona. The more you try to artificially construct the perfect, healed, unbothered version of yourself, the larger and darker your shadow becomes behind you. You are hand-feeding the exact monster you are trying to starve. Why do we do this to ourselves? We do it because we are terrified. We are absolutely terrified of the unknown, and we are terrified of our own inner chaos. We think that if we can just figure out the exact formula, perfectly optimized morning routine, the exact right diet, the precise breathing technique, we can control the uncontrollable nature of existence. We try to treat the human psyche like a complex math problem to be solved. It failed. Look around. Look at society right now. We are the most therapy-fluent, self-aware generation in the history of human civilization. We know all the clinical terminology. We can easily identify our attachment styles, our trauma responses, and our cognitive behavioral loops. We have mapped out every inch of our psychological pain. Yet, we have never been more anxious, more depressed, or more alienated from our true selves. Knowing the exact name of the ghost haunting your house does not make the house any less haunted. The cold, analytical mind cannot heal the soul. In fact, the over-analytical mind is very often the exact defense mechanism the ego uses to avoid actually feeling the pain. We intellectualize our suffering so we never have to sit in the fire. We turn our healing into a neat, organized to-do list because checking off boxes gives us the illusion of safety. But true transformation is not safe. It is deeply, fundamentally unsafe to the ego. So, if trying to violently fix yourself is destroying you, what is the alternative? How do we break this cycle of self-mutilation disguised as self-improvement? Here is the strange part. The answer is incredibly simple, and therefore, it is the hardest thing you will ever be asked to do. We must look away from modern optimization and look toward the ancient wisdom of Taoism, specifically the concept of Wu Wei. Wu Wei is very frequently mistranslated in the West as doing nothing. In our hyper-productive, hustle-obsessed culture, doing nothing is considered a moral failure. We immediately equate it with apathy, laziness, or giving up on life. But Wu Wei does not mean being passive. It translates much closer to non-forcing or effortless action. It is the profound understanding that the most important things in life can only be achieved by explicitly not trying to achieve them. Think of a muddy, turbulent glass of water. If you want the water to be perfectly clear, what do? If you reach your hand into the glass and try to manually push the dirt to the bottom, what happens? You only stir it up more. The harder you try to fight the mud, the cloudier and more chaotic the water becomes. The only way to clear the water is to leave it completely alone. You let it sit. You step back. You allow gravity to do the work it was always going to do. Over time, the dirt settles on its own, and the water naturally becomes perfectly transparent. Your mind is the exact same way. Your soul is the exact same way. The exact fraction of a second you stop violently trying to fix your anxiety is the exact moment it begins to lose its paralyzing grip on your throat. Taoism also speaks of the beautiful concept of Pu, the uncarved block. The uncarved block represents our pure, natural state of being prior to society taking a chisel to us, prior to our parents telling us what shape we needed to be to receive love. The profound, paradigm-shattering truth of the uncarved block is that it is already completely perfect precisely because it is unshaped. It contains infinite, unforced potential. You are the uncarved block. You are not a broken machine. You do not need to be fixed because you were never broken in the first place. You are simply experiencing the wild, unpredictable weather of being a human being. Zen, Buddhism, echoes this exact sentiment with absolute clarity. The core practice of Zen is not about reaching some elevated, glowing state of spiritual enlightenment where you float above the world and never feel sad, angry, or betrayed ever again. That is a spiritual fantasy sold to keep you buying books. True Zen is about radical, unflinching acceptance of what is actually happening right now, in your body, at this very second. If you are sad, be entirely, fully sad. Collapse into it. Do not be sad and simultaneously angry at yourself for being sad. That second arrow is the one that kills you. The first arrow is the natural, unavoidable pain of human life. You lose a job, a relationship ends, a loved one passes away, that hurts. But the second arrow is your psychological resistance to the first arrow. It is the narrative you spin that says, I shouldn't hurting this much. I should be over this by now. What is wrong with me? Think about the immense, staggering amount of energy you spend every single day holding up the heavy mask of the person you think you should be. The energy required to suppress your shadow is enough to power a city. What would happen if you just dropped it? What if, the next time the day comes, you do not run? You do not pull out a leather-bound journal to aggressively intellectualize it. You do not immediately put on a distraction podcast to drown out the silence. What if you just invite the darkness in? Imagine treating your fear, your intense shame, and your crippling guilt not as heavily armed enemies trying to destroy you, but as exhausted, terrified orphans knocking on your door in the freezing rain. Would you yell at a crying, shivering child to be quiet, act more mindful? Would you demand that a terrified, stray dog immediately sit perfectly still and demonstrate emotional intelligence? No. You would offer them warmth, you would open the door, you would sit with them on the floor, you would just listen without trying to change them. This is the hidden secret of Jungian integration. Integration does not mean purification. It never has. It means making whole. It means taking the darkest, ugliest, most pathetic, shivering parts of yourself and looking them dead in the eye and saying, you belong here, too, you are a part of me, and I will not abandon you to the cold anymore. When you stop fighting the shadow, it stops fighting you. It transforms. It shifts from a destructive demon into a wellspring of immense vitality, raw creativity, and unstoppable strength. The massive amount of energy you used to keep it locked in the basement suddenly becomes fully available to you for living your actual life. This is the great paradox of healing. You can only truly change when you completely, unconditionally abandon the desperate, panicked need to change. Stop trying to heal yourself. Stop treating your soul like a weekend project that is behind schedule. You are exhausting the life out of your own existence. Step away from the mirror. Step away from the endless, suffocating self-interrogation. Just let the water sit. Let the mud settle on its own time. Breathe in the chaotic, messy, terrifying, beautiful reality of exactly who you are in this exact second, and recognize the deepest truth of the universe. It is enough. The universe does not make mistakes, and it certainly did not start making mistakes the day you were born. The war inside your head is over, but it is only over if you choose to drop your weapons. Only when you completely surrender the desire to be perfect can you actually allow yourself to become whole. If you made it to the end, comment the water clears itself, and I will personally reply to you. And if this resonated with you, subscribe to be part of this, and leave a like if you enjoyed it.